Well, at 9:20 a.m., we continue with this morning's broadcast of news and views right here on Salam Media. Now, this is quite interesting because we are talking with Horst Kleinschmidt. And just to give you a bit of a background, I know he's got a very, very long CV. He's got an impressive CV, but I'm going to try and condense it very quickly. In fact, Horst obviously was of German missionary colonial extraction, blood related in Namaqua was his great grandmother, born in Swakopmund in Namibia, and he obviously has done his BA at Wits, a teaching diploma. He was charged many times under the Riotous Assemblies Act and also under the Suppression of Communism Act. He was detained under Section 6 of the Terrorism Act in 1975. He spent 3 months in in solitary confinement as well, and he's just served on so many civil society bodies as well. But what we'd like to actually talk about, and he is an anti-apartheid activist, a writer, and also talking about some of the developments. And I think if we have been following the news, we know that there have been protests against Germany and Glencore that actually marked the Namibian Genocide Remembrance Day. And I recall a few years ago talking about this in terms of Germany and paying reparations to Namibia. And we know that this day was to commemorate the mass murders of more than 70,000 Herero and Nama people by Germany when they had colonized Namibia between 1904 and 1908. Horst, good morning to you, sir. Welcome to the show, and an absolute pleasure having you with us this morning.
Good morning to you, and salama alaikum. Guten Morgen, as they say in Swakopmund.
I know German, obviously. Guten Morgen to you as well. But, Horst, obviously you come with a very, very interesting bio and an interesting profile. You've just been through so much. You've achieved so much in your life as well. And, visiting this or this genocide remembrance day against obviously Germany. And we've also seen that together with this, with the other genocide that is unfolding in Gaza as we speak right now. So an opportunity was used to protest both against Germany and also at the same time to highlight the current and the most recent genocide that is taking place.
Indeed, it might sometimes be convenient for people to remember events that took place a long time ago. But to me, and through what I have learned, if we do not stand up for justice and rightness now in the issues that confront us now, then looking at past events fades into a nothingness. We need to stand up because of what is happening to the people of Palestine right now.
Yes, certainly. But also, I think, when we look at Africa as a continent and when we look at Namibia in particular, and when we look at the colonialist legacy that they've left behind, and they've left death, destruction, despair, and thousands of people, millions of people across the entire continent that have actually sacrificed their lives, that have actually died as a result of this colonialist legacy. And again, many of them have not been held accountable, like we see with Gaza at this point in time, where you've got the Zionist entity that refuses to take accountability. The Germans also haven't taken accountability for what has taken place in Namibia.
That is absolutely correct. And we see their engagement with Namibian government recently as a somewhat cynical engagement, insofar as they try and put investments and funds into a Namibian government in general without taking special account of the Nama and Herero people who were the victims in that colonial period. So they're diluting it into a generality. And to me, that speaks to the fact that they haven't understood that to make right what they did wrong before cannot be done in generalist ways. It cannot be done with money. It demands an attitudinal change, which I don't see them as portraying in any way, notably in relation to whatever they did in Africa, whatever they did during the Third Reich, whatever they did in terms of anti-Semitism, and what they are now contributing toward in terms of what is happening in the Middle East.
Yes, but also I think what is interesting to note is the genocide that occurred in Namibia is referred to as Germany's forgotten genocide. And it's so easy to actually forget, but these were mass murders of more than 70,000 people that we're talking about. And we've seen obviously the murdering of over 6 million Jews in terms of the Nazi Germany under Hitler as well. So when the Nazi regime, obviously that is a genocide that has never ever been forgotten. It's being repeated over and over again so that people can actually remember that this Holocaust has taken place. But again, in terms of being selective, and this is where the question arises: why are people, or why is the world selective when it comes to not remembering other genocides that have unfolded, other genocides that have taken place, Horst?
Well, as I said in my address outside the German consulate here in Cape Town a few days ago, I accused the German government of having not given true account of what they are responsible for, and that in Africa they continue to be collaborators, both directly and indirectly. So, for example, the fact that a German armaments company owns half of Denel, the South African armaments company, is a cynical way of Germany building extra arms besides what they build in Germany through a South African company, and then sell those arms into war areas, including the Middle East. So in a way, they're doing a double dip in pursuing, yet again, policies that lead to destruction, that have led to an arms race, and so on.
Yes, but also I think what came strong through at the protest action, and I'm just looking at some of the reports that have come through, is the whole question about Germany and its position in maintaining silence with regards to this genocide, where we've seen recently a number of countries in Europe are starting to threaten, at the very least, whether it's going to happen or not, but they are threatening to impose sanctions against Israel for not allowing aid into Palestine. And criticism of the German government is Germany is doing absolutely nothing.
You know, it's maybe useful to say where I was born in Swakopmund in Namibia, there was a concentration camp between 1904 and 1908. And I remember as a child seeing the large waste next to the Swakop River of mounds, each one being the grave of someone who did not survive that concentration camp. All I was told as a child was, these are the deaths from the Spanish flu in 1918 and thereafter. And so I was lied to. I had to liberate myself from that. I was lucky enough that as a young person, as a teenager, my teacher at school, or a teacher, liberated me from that. And the consequence of that was that I couldn't just say, I am against it, I am horrified by it, but I had to go all the way to the other side and say, if you come from there, then you must not just turn a blind eye, but you must be involved in the struggles for justice and liberation. And that is why, at this stage of our history, let us remind the Germans every year on this Remembrance Day that in Namibia, in Tanzania, their complicity in genocide still needs to be evoked, because the trauma it left on those people affected by it is around and has severe consequences for a sizable population group in Namibia as much as in Tanzania.
Yes, but of course, as you mentioned, year after year, when Remembrance Day comes up, that reminder is being served to the German government. But what we're seeing is inaction on the part of the German government. And we know, as I mentioned, at the outset, I recall covering this story about 2 or 3 years ago about reparations. And we still see this is not forthcoming. And we've also seen the Namibian government allude to this when a Remembrance Day had actually come up.
I am hopeful that the new president of Namibia, first time Namibia has a female president, she has shown a commitment to this, like her predecessors have not. And I think it is very important that this Remembrance Day becomes far more prominent and, in fact, is observed in places throughout Namibia, not just in Windhoek as happened this year.
Yes. Horst, just, from your perspective, what would you like to see as an
I
out?
would like, yeah, I have throughout my life made it my business to say that those who served imprisonment, who lived in concentration camps, those who were arraigned in prisons without charge, without access to defense, and so on, they are the people we must remember most especially. And they are, of course, people who are in Namibia. They are people who are currently in prisons in Israel. And when I came out of prison and finally ended up in exile, I worked for 12 years for the International Defense and Aid Fund, which was to ensure that all the tens of thousands of prisoners apartheid detained, including, of course, in large numbers in Namibia, that they had knowledge of the possibility of a defense. And I am keenly aware that be it 10,000, be it 20,000 prisoners who are currently serving in Israeli prisons, they are the people, besides all the trauma that the population as such goes through. Remember that a detainee without access to a lawyer is more exposed to abuse than any other person ever. And that is the person we need to look after. I happen to be able to live with that through own experience, but I make it my business to say wherever there are prisoners that are there because of political oppression, and Germany is guilty of participating in that genocide right now. And my conclusion easily is that does it continue to look down upon people of color? Does it continue to look down on people it can extract minerals from? Does it look down on people where their financial interests come first, and in the process they oppress the other? That is the business that we need to highlight. If we do not highlight the problem, the issue of exploitation that faces the prisoners in Israeli prisons today, we are failing to live up to the legacy that we need to be reminded of, whether it be in Namibia, be it in South Africa, be it in other countries. And Germany stands more accused in this regard than any other country.
Well, clearly, Horst, we've seen it even with Palestinian protests in Germany as well. And we've seen how complicit the German authorities have been, the German government, together with their security apparatus, the police as well. We've seen it over and over again, and there have been many an image that has actually come out of Germany. Just in terms of, and I'm sure, you very, very well versed with the German politics and how politics has evolved over a period of time and what is actually playing out in the German political landscape to make them complicit, to make them impotent, through inaction, and also, more importantly, supporting when genocides like these occur.
My friends in Berlin tell me that today the numbers who turn up to demonstrate are mostly people living in Germany of Palestinian or Middle Eastern descent. And what happens when a demonstration is starting, normally the authorities somehow gather a Zionist grouping to demonstrate from the other side. And that then becomes the excuse by which the police say we cannot tolerate a confrontation and therefore both sides must be silenced. And that's their methodology. That's an authoritarian, a non-democratic way in which they have silenced people. They are, if Jews for Justice in Palestine, in South Africa, were to go to Germany today, they would be Jews who would, in fact, be arrested if they said what they say in South Africa. That is how they have curtailed, how they have condemned freedom of speech in Germany, and they call themselves a free country. Well, in these circumstances, I think they are offending against a fundamental human right, a fundamental democratic right.
Yes, and just Host, just personally for you as an activist, how far are you prepared to actually go with this, and just to make sure that justice will be served?
It is my duty, it is my absolute obligation, however old I am, to stand up for where injustice happens now. I need to remember where it happened before, but I need to, in particular, pick up where it takes place today. And so I will once again this afternoon be on the picket line with my fellow comrades who wave our Palestinian flags. But beyond that, I would love to see that we can demonstrate on a person-to-person basis far more clearly how we can, through modern media, through modern technology, through WhatsApp, communicate with people, be they in refugee camps in Lebanon, wherever they might be on the West Bank and notably in Gaza, just to say once a day through a short sentence, we are thinking of you, we are with you, and if we can do anything to help you, let us do so.
Well, Horst, thank you very much for that, and keep up the good work. And I'm sure at some point in time we will be touching base again. But for now, we wish you all the best, and please take care.
I thank you. Thank you.
Horst Kleinschmidt, writer and anti-apartheid activist, with us this morning. And with that, we're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back.